Très bien. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
I hope you're doing well, especially in these difficult circumstances. But I get to know you during these few sessions, and I know that I don't need to remind you to stay home and to respect the safety measures. I'm even sure that you yourself participate in the awareness of people toward the safety of our country and the people we love.
Yes, sure.
Yes.
So, in this
I
live
hope that you
session,
are doing good.
we will stay in line with the program of our course, Leadership, Communication, and Negotiation. The only thing that changed is that you can participate while staying home and that you can review it. I mean, the session, you can review it whenever you want. There may be a second different rule. Today, cell phones are allowed. So, last session, we identified the differences between the bargaining negotiation situation and the integrative negotiation situation. We saw some tactics, we saw strategies, we analyzed this process, we analyzed the situations, and we adopted that expert position to detect the mistakes made by Monsieur Gentil in that negotiation situation. We worked as teams, we identified those mistakes, we made the recommendation, and we reproduced, remember, Bushra's team, Nabil and Yassin reproduced the same scene in an improved version based on what we've learned as integrative negotiation tactics. Unfortunately, due to lack of time, Team Marie, Team WM, and Team Omar will do it next Monday. Because today we will see a different but related topic, which is leadership communication strategy, its purpose, its audiences, and how to conceive this strategy. We'll also try to fly during this live session. We'll try to fly over and examine some leadership communication styles. Well, we saw some definitions, remember, at the first session. Communication is used to change public opinion, remember, or what customers buy. It is a large part of the activity of many organizations, which employ communication directors, public relations executives, media consultants, whose job are basically to put their organization's point of view in most favorable light possible. Leaders of organizations, and I mean, by organizations, I mean, remember, big companies, small companies, SMEs, public organizations, non-profit organizations, sports club, etc. All these leaders of all levels, I mean, have always had to communicate with employees, customers, shareholders, media, etc. For different reasons. But let's say that a leader doesn't communicate for the pleasure of doing so. He always communicates for an objective, a clear purpose, or at least he should, for a clear purpose and goal and vision. I invite you to go back to this video we watched during our first session, remember, when we talk about these inspiring leaders? And we took the example of Barack Obama, leadership communication. We have seen him communicate in several contexts, in front of students, in front of religious citizens, or even the whole world. I invite you to watch this video to refresh our memory.
So in love with you. This is your victory. Now, I know you didn't do this just to win an election. I know you didn't do it for me. You did it because you understand the enormity of the task that lies ahead. But my main message is to the parents of Trayvon Martin. You know, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. They had their entire lives ahead of them. Birthdays, graduations, weddings, kids of their own. Among the fallen were also teachers, men and women who devoted their lives to helping our children fulfill their dreams. So our hearts are broken today. It's the idea held by generations of citizens who believe that America is a constant work in progress, who believe that loving this country requires more than singing its praises or avoiding uncomfortable truths. It requires the occasional disruption, the willingness to speak out for what is right, to shake up the status quo. That's America. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Facts, evidence, reason, logic, an understanding of science. These are good things. These are qualities you want in people making policy. Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know. Obama out.
To refresh your memory. Remember, we saw this video in the first session when we talk about leadership communication. Remember?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just to say, and if you remember, we saw Barack Obama, we saw him singing, we saw him celebrating victory, we saw him communicating about, I don't know, a tragedy that affected his nation, remember? Commemorate a tragic or a historical memory. We saw him supporting his supporters. So various situations, various audiences, and various goals. And in every speech, and of course there are many others, the objective was different, the audience was different, and we can understand it according to the different tones, faces, attitudes, the words chosen used by our former American president in every situation and leadership communication. So today, and this is the purpose of this section, we will learn how to establish a clear purpose of communication, to analyze audiences, and to develop strategy. So, before communicating, the leader should consider the purpose. I mean, the purpose, the goal, or the vision, the strategy, and the audience early in the communication process. Strategy consists of two actions, okay? Determine the goals or vision of what we want to achieve, and developing how best to achieve the purpose, the goal, or the vision. So in developing a communication strategy, we first determine exactly what our goal or purpose is in communicating with our audience. And then we decide how best to accomplish that purpose and connect with that audience. I mean, societies, customer segments are heterogeneous. Young, women, different social professional categories, different education backgrounds, different ages, various incomes, different regions, I mean, living in rural or urban areas, different ideologies. Effective leadership Effective leadership, effective communication leadership depends on your thinking and planning strategically, understanding your audience, understanding your different audience, segmenting, targeting them, structuring your communication for different situations to ensure that you connect with your audience and deliver your intended message. So you should establish a clear communication purpose, develop a strategic leadership communication plan, analyze audiences, and ensure that your message is logically and appropriately organized for the different audiences you will encounter. So in the strategy of communication, in an effective communication strategy, the first step is to establish a clear purpose. And this purpose could be to inform, transferring facts, data, or information to someone, to influence, motivating or convincing him to feel, believe, or act in some way, to instruct, instructing someone in a process, procedure, or policy, or to engage. I mean, to involve someone in a collaborative exchange of idea. So, for example, when Mariam, when she started that corporate blog, the Blue Building, remember?
Yes, Miss, yes.
The initial goal was to inform, to instruct people about the product. She created a blog to inform people and to instruct them and to talk about her products. But while gaining followers, she may prefer to engage them in conversation that can have direct impact on the types of change she wants to make on her organization. So the goals, the purpose, diffèrent d'une situation à l'autre. Well, first step is to consider and to establish the purpose and the goal. The second step is to consider the context. I mean, the communication occurs in a context of interrelated conditions that surround it. Leadership communication never exists in a vacuum. Okay, so we'll conceiving, will establishing a communication strategy, will considering the context, we should ask some question. For example, what else is going on in the world? Let's take a slightly exaggerated example. For your opinion, would it be useful, beneficial if Armani, communication manager, organized a communication campaign around his new spring collection? Let's take Lombardy region in Italy. Yeah, the world is in crisis. His country is in crisis. An action like that, une action comme ça, pourrait avoir des retombées négatives sur son image, could have negative impact on his brand. So while communicating, while establishing this communication strategy, we should ask what's going on in the world. Okay? Second question, for example, is to ask where does the communication fall in the overall flow of communication? You are managing a big company and you accepted, for example, to sponsor a great artistic event. And in return, you ask that a communication message to be sent about your product or your company or yourself. So where does the communication fall in the overall flow of communication? Because there are certainly a dozen of sponsors. Will the organizer pass your message at the start of the event when everyone is motivated, or at the end of the event when the audience is tired and everyone gone? D'accord? Donc, vous posez cette question par rapport au positionnement de la communication, du message de communication. Donc, vous êtes par exemple une grande entreprise et vous décidez de sponsoriser un événement artistique. D'accord? Et en contrepartie, vous demandez à ce qu'un message de communication soit adressé au niveau de ce grand événement par rapport à vos produits, par rapport à votre personne ou à votre entreprise. Il faut d'abord savoir ce message de communication, il se positionne où? À la fin de l'événement, quand tout le monde est fatigué, quand l'audience, les spectateurs sont partis, ou en début d'événement, parce qu'il y aura certainement d'autres sponsors à part. What does the communication, what does the audience know or believe about the context compared with what the sender knows or believes? Let's take the situation that we are living, for example. The audience think that the first needed good products and foodstuffs, etc., will not remain. But as a person in charge of public communication, you know that this is wrong. Okay? What are the cultural differences I should consider? In North Africa, for example, and Middle East, McDonald's Corporation, the American company, insists in his communication on the halal nature of the process of preparation of the meat. They consider the cultural sensitivity that people in this region have with this ingredient. D'accord? So understanding the context is essential to helping us ensure we create and develop our messages so that our audiences listen to and accept them as we intend. Second step of strategic communication process is analyzing audiences. Analyzing audiences simply means that la communication de masse, c'est fini. We can't address the same message using the same channel to all segments, all audiences combined, and expect different results. On ne peut pas adresser le même message, la même communication à tout le monde, à tous les segments confondus. D'accord? Et attendre des résultats différents. Analysis and audiences is fundamental to any communication strategy, since the characteristics of audiences will determine the approach and shape the targeted messages. Well, here is an example of a communication strategy analysis for a merger, une fusion. Alors, prenons par exemple, let's imagine that Inouï, that this is a merger for Inouï and Maroc Telecom. D'accord? On va juste imaginer un scénario. So as you can see, cette fusion, this merger, have many targets or many audiences. Okay? Il y a les investisseurs, the local media, national media. Okay? Acquired, c'est-à-dire les employés qui vont rejoindre l'entreprise fusionnée et c'est-à-dire les employés qui demeurent. Donc pour les investisseurs, pour la communauté, investment community, the medium, c'est-à-dire le canal de communication, will be meetings, internet. Okay, the communicator will be the CEO. The timing will be the day of announcement. And the purpose will be to inspire confidence in company stability and value. So as you can see, in a communication process, we have and we should clarify the audience, the medium, the purpose, the message, who will communicate, the communicator, and when will we communicate, the timing. In this example, we have many audiences, as I said. For national media, for example, the medium will not be the same as with the investment community and with employees. To communicate with our employees, we don't need press conference. We don't need blogs. We will simply need emails. We will simply need to organize meeting with them. And the objective of this communication will not be the same as with, for example, the local media or the investment community. The employees, our employees need, for example, to know that to have information about the stability of their situation, okay? To know, for example, that this is good for all employees, creating stronger company, secure future for all. They need to be reassured about their future, about their situation. Les investisseurs, par exemple, need to be, we need to inspire confidence in company stabilities and value. Nous devons inspirer confiance. Nous devons, par exemple, rassurer nos partenaires et les investisseurs que tout va bien, que cette fusion rapportera de la valeur ajoutée à notre économie nationale, par exemple. Who will communicate? Well, for important situation, it will be the CEO. Pour rassurer les employés, c'est le PDG qui doit faire ça, d'accord? Or a senior manager team. But the communicator will change from a situation to another, and the timing will change. Okay, so we can choose in this situation, the timing to communicate with the employees is after the announcement of the merger, la fusion, d'accord? Et par exemple, pour la presse nationale, c'est justement le jour de the day of announcement. So what you should retain is that we don't communicate with all audiences with the same medium, the same message, the same person who communicates, and the same timing. First questions we should answer while establishing our communication strategy is about the purpose. What is my objective? Or what do I want to accomplish? Do I have different but related purposes for different audiences? Let's take the example of the situation and the context we are living. For example, as responsible for communication, my purpose, what I want to achieve through this communication is that I want all Moroccans and people present in the Moroccan territory, I want them to stay home. Yeah? I want to protect vulnerable person from coronavirus, par exemple. So this is my purpose. Je souhaite que mon objectif, d'accord? Mon objectif est de pousser les gens, les Marocains et les personnes présentes sur les territoires marocains de rester chez elles, d'accord? L'objectif relatif à mon objectif principal pour d'autres audiences, pour des segments related audiences, et que je souhaite protéger les personnes vulnérables du coronavirus, d'accord? My message, what is my message? My message is stay home, for example. Restez chez vous. Okay, how do I formulate my message to make it acceptable to my audience? My message will be short, clear, direct. Il sera court, clair et direct. Stay home. Restez chez vous. What do I expect others to do because of my message? I expect them to understand it, I expect them to accept it, and I expect them to apply it. What are my supporting messages, for example? Well, I can use persuasive message, I can use strong message, scientific explanation coming from academics, scientifics, journalists, persuasive messages coming from artists, actors, etc.
Also, Miss, excuse me,
Yeah,
on social media,
yeah,
on social media, all the bloggers and the famous people send a message to the population.
yeah. Of course, the artists, the actors, les influenceurs, yeah.
Oui.
Yeah,
Right.
and this is true. What this is true a different medium, for example, for youth and young women and young men, for example, will use social media to pour les sensibiliser, for example. Okay, with citizens, for example, we will use official news. Yeah, stars, singers, les influenceurs, for example. Since I know that, for example, 22 million Moroccan are connected on WhatsApp, and that I can't have an official channel or WhatsApp on WhatsApp, I will keep denying rumors through official television news. Yeah. Well, audiences. Yeah, I should analyze my audiences. I should segment them. I should target them, and I should choose the right message, the right channel for every audience. And then I should choose who's the communicator for every situation. Am I the best person to deliver the message? If not, who should deliver the message? Who would be the most credible or otherwise effective communicator for different messages or audiences? Well, in our situation, sometimes it will be the president of the government. Sometimes it will be the interior minister, the health minister, journalists, influenceurs, comme tu viens de dire, etc. We will switch the communicator according to the purpose of the communication situation. Okay? So let's move to an application. Yeah, let's apply this. I will invite you to dress a clear canvas, okay, to identify different audiences, to clarify your purpose for communicating with different audiences selected, to choose a medium, the timing, okay, well, according to a specific situation. A left-wing candidate for the 2021 legislative elections asked you to work as a communication manager in his campaign. You accept the offer since you share the same values, beliefs, ideology, and because it is a new, different, and interesting experience. He first asks you to establish a communication strategy to communicate around his program. D'accord? Donc, un candidat de gauche, d'accord, pour les de gauche ou de droite, je ne sais pas, pour les élections 2021, vous demande de travailler pour lui. Donc, du moment que vous partagez les mêmes valeurs, les mêmes principes, la même vision, vous avez accepté cette offre, d'accord? Et il vous demande d'établir une stratégie de communication pour communiquer autour de son programme. Donc, dans un Canva, vous allez identifier les différentes audiences possibles. Et justement, je choisis cet exemple parce que c'est un exemple qui vous permet une large, je vais dire, composition. Vous êtes devant la société et les composantes, les segments de la société sont nombreuses. Donc, ça va vous permettre de détecter différentes audiences, d'accord, de clarifier l'objectif de la communication avec ces différentes audiences, de choisir le canal de communication, le timing quand vous allez communiquer et le communicateur, la personne qui va communiquer dans chaque action. D'accord? Amnei. promotionnelle, institutionnelle, communication externe et la communication interne. Yes, Amne. Those are, let's say, type of communication. But what are your the audiences that you will target, Amne? Les audiences les segments que tu vas cibler. The audiences that you will target. I mean, si c'était moi, les parties prenantes, c'est très global. Écoute, si c'était moi, and since, par exemple, since young people represent more than 9 million person from the Moroccan population, I will focus on young person. But this is still a big audience, a big segment. Yeah, I may choose les jeunes, d'accord, qui ont entre 18 à 24 ans, et clients, salariés, investisseurs. Oui, this is audiences. D'accord, c'est ce que je veux dire par segment. Donc, salariés, mais quel genre de salariés aimer? Il y a plusieurs catégories socio-professionnelles. Il y a different incomes, okay, different social professional categories. Les investisseurs, dans quel secteur, d'accord? Les fournisseurs, oui, les clients. C'est des audiences, mais ça reste des audiences très globales. Mais bon, si tu souhaites t'arrêter à ce niveau, quoique global, maintenant, quels sont les objectifs de chaque communication, the purposes of your communication? Okay, what is your purpose of communication with the clients? Okay, with the providers or the suppliers, for example. What is your purpose of communication with the investment communities, for example? What is the timing? When will you communicate with those persons, for example, during the electoral campaign, before the electoral campaign? Okay. Who will communicate? Your candidates? Le candidat avec qui tu travailles, ou ça sera, for example, you as communication manager, or will you, for example, ask the sponsoring for an influencer in social media, for example, or will you buy an advertising space in a journal, for example? What will be the channel of communication? Who will communicate? What is the timing? Okay, what is the purpose? We will, Miriam, we will target people who are more interested directly in this campaign.
Yes, Miss.
Go ahead. Yes, Miriam.
Yes, people who are more interested in what are we doing from this campaign. Like young people, especially because young people are more motivated about new audience and new legislative,
Really, young people are interested about legislative campaign and electoral campaign?
Yes, young people, not young people about 30, 28, 29.
Okay. So you will target young people, and what will be your message to them, Mariam? What are the channels that you will use? Okay, what are when will you talk to them? What is the timing, and who will talk? Okay, who will be the communicator? Qui va communiquer avec ces segments? What is it? Okay.
Yes, the best communicator will be the influencers in social media.
Okay.
Because they influence a lot of their community and of people from our ages, because we are always on our phones and on social media, so they are the best communicators.
Okay, so Maryam, you will choose social media as a medium, okay, and you choose to target the young people as audience.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And when will you communicate? When? The timing and who will communicate? You choose influencer, right?
Yes.
You will choose some influencer on social media and Instagram and Facebook to talk to your audiences, to talk to your audiences about your candidate, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Nizar, I would say active supporters, which are the people who believe in the same ideas as us. Yeah, we need to further convince them. They have to be motivated to give their support. And the second group is possible voters, people who are undecided, yes, the undecided people, and can become supporters. Perfect. This is your audience, Nizar. So what is your medium? What is the purpose of communication? Who is the communicator? When will you communicate, Nizar? Okay, so the purpose, the audience, the timing, the medium, the communicator. Alors, amener, par exemple, madame, si on veut vendre une Ferrari, d'accord, on va pas prendre comme support le journal Sabah. Absolument, on l'a dit. On l'a dit au départ, la communication de masse, c'est fini, d'accord. On ne peut pas adopter les mêmes outils de communication avec tous les segments confondus pour atteindre différents résultats. Mais justement, on ne peut pas adopter n'importe quel outil de communication pour n'importe quel purpose, n'importe quel objectif de communication. Donc, oui, ça, c'est un bon exemple. Mais qu'en est-il de tes segments, MD, pour cette, je veux dire, political communication campaign? Donc, pour les segments que tu as choisis, tu as dit que tu as choisi des, je ne sais pas, des investisseurs, par exemple, oui. Il y a des candidats qui, pardon. Il y a des candidats qui ciblent les investisseurs pour leur campagne électorale. Mais à travers quels outils tu vas communiquer avec eux? L'objectif de la communication, c'est-à-dire le timing, qui va communiquer, le communicateur et le contexte de cette communication. Donc, quand on essaie d'établir cette stratégie de communication, il y a plusieurs points à clarifier. D'accord? Il faut bien se les mettre dans la tête. Il faut d'abord savoir quelles sont nos audiences, avec qui je vais communiquer. D'accord? Avec qui je vais communiquer. Je choisis mes audiences. Moi, par exemple, je vais choisir young women, young men, okay? People in rural areas, specific social professional category, okay? I will choose to communicate, to target, I don't know, young students, for example. Well, what are my let's say my medium of communication? I will join Miriam for her choice. I will choose social media to communicate with young people. Since I know I have some statistics, and I know that, for example, 13 million Moroccans are connected on Facebook. D'après le rapport AMT, par exemple, 22 million Moroccans are connected on WhatsApp, for example. So it will be interesting. And as, for example, as I don't have a big budget for my communication strategy, I will focus media. I will.
On voit pas ce genre de sujet. Madame, on voit pas ce genre de sujet dans les médias, dans les sociaux médias. Genre tout ce qui est législatif, tout ce qui est politique, c'est pas fait pour les médias et les sociomédias.
Je vais peut-être dans le contexte marocain, c'est pas très, je vais dire, c'est pas très développé. Mais si on prend l'exemple de la campagne électorale Hillary Clinton au présidentiel américain, d'accord, the last presidential election, Hillary Clinton s'est concentrée sur une très grande stratégie de communication sur les réseaux sociaux. Et justement parce qu'elle a ciblé les jeunes. Et vous vous rappelez que je vous avais dit que dans un article sur le Washington Post, je pense, ils ont dit que Hillary Clinton avait fait appel à la stratégiste marketing de Coca-Cola. Pourquoi? Parce que la stratégiste marketing de Coca-Cola des nouvelles générations, elle a aidé Hillary Clinton à créer une nouvelle image, à communiquer une nouvelle image auprès des nouvelles générations. Justement parce que Hillary Clinton est une ancienne marque qui date des années, je ne sais pas, des années 90. Sa première apparition a été auprès de son mari, le président Bill Clinton, the former American President Bill Clinton. Donc, elle avait besoin d'être rebrandée, que son image soit recommuniquée auprès des nouvelles générations. Et justement, elle a fait appel à cette stratégiste marketing de Coca-Cola des nouvelles générations. Et elle a réalisé vraiment une très grande campagne de communication sur les réseaux sociaux, d'accord, pour ces présidentielles. Alors, est-ce que ça existe dans notre contexte ou pas? Peut-être non, mais aujourd'hui, est-on armé de nouvelles? C'est un exemple qui nous est destiné, armé de nouveaux outils de communication, etc. On nous demande de réaliser laissez-moi dire, une campagne électorale un peu créative, un peu développée, etc. Et donc, ça n'empêche qu'on peut appliquer ce genre de choses à cette communication-là. D'accord? Alors, Ashraf, pour l'exemple marocain, ce problème conflit. On a vu juste avant ce problème de confinement, sa campagne, réseaux sociaux. Sur Instagram, effectivement, Ashraf, je l'ai suivi aussi. Concerning the purpose, it is clearly to gain the audience trust and get them to vote for us. Yes. Well, okay. So this is a purpose coming from WM, and you are targeting young people or all audiences combined, and you are trying to gain the trust and to get them to vote for us through your communication strategy. Okay, so when will you communicate with them? When will you communicate? And who will be the communicator? Marie. Bonjour Marie. Alors, les objectifs peuvent être faire adhérer les personnes à mon projet en posant des actions. D'accord? Faire adhérer les parties à travers des conférences de presse. Maintenir une relation avec la population d'une façon générale via les réseaux sociaux. D'accord. Donc, your purposes, Marie, is to include people on your project and to include them in your vision with proposing actions. OK. Faire adhérer les parties à travers des conférences, organize press conference. You're adopting also social media. Good. Okay. Dunya, try to inform young people about the change that it could be maintained purpose. Okay, guys. On ferme cette parenthèse. Et justement, vos réponses sont des réponses pertinentes. Mais laissez-moi vous dire que l'objectif de l'application, c'est quoi? L'objectif d'application est d'avoir vraiment dans la tête les ensembles composantes du processus de communication. To have to clearly understand, to clearly identify the different points of, let's say, a communication strategy. Okay, so you have brilliant idea, brilliant information, brilliant proposition. But let me say that, will you try to establish a communication strategy, whatever is the situation? Please consider the audiences. Try to choose, try to segment the whole population you have in this situation. Select the audiences, segment them, and then target them. I give this example because it puts you in front of a big population, une population variée. You have young people, you have women, you have different social professional category, you have people living in rural or urban area, you have people living in different region, you have people with different ideology, you have people sharing different, I don't know, beliefs, for example. You have different ages, you have different incomes. Okay, so according to this criteria, you should choose your segment. I will choose people with, I don't know, with this specific age, with this specific incomes, young and women living in those areas, using those types of technology. Okay, so or maybe I will choose just one segment. Focus on people with no incomes, for example. I will choose the segment of people with no incomes. I will choose unemployed youth, and I will work with them to improve their.
Sorry for interrupting you.
Go ahead.
It's
yeah.
Leila.
Hi, Leila.
I'm sorry. How are you?
Fine, Leila. Go ahead.
Okay. So, Miss, I think that the targeted audience that we need to target is that all the parties engaged in any political campaign. Like I sent this in message, but you didn't reply, so that's why I interrupt you.
Go ahead.
So, like to create a pertinent communication strategy for electoral campaign.
Yeah.
I think that the targeted audience need to be all the parties engaged in political campaign. Like the age, no matter, like doesn't matter.
You mean
neither
all
like
the wait, Leila, all the political parties engage in a campaign?
Yeah, because the parties like that are engaged are interested in that. So to have a good targeted audience, you need to target people who is interested in that thing. I think, but I'm not sure.
Okay. So, well, political parties are obviously already engaged, already know for who they will vote. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understood. Thank you. Okay.
So you'd better, target people and decide people, for example, as Nizar suggested, and decide people for me as an interesting segment. And let's say that it could be different segments, but political party engaged person is a very difficult segment for you. I mean, you can have votes from this segment, but it's a strategy, it's a choice that will cost you a lot of effort, a big budget, for example, to motivate, to convince those engaged person to let their political parties and vote for you. Since, for example, you have a big data of people who are not engaged and who have never voted before, or who turned 18 just 2 years or 4 years ago. So this segment is an easier segment, for example. it's an easier, for example, I don't say that what you're suggesting is impossible. I'm just saying that it is a bit difficult. But anyway, the objective of, as I was saying, the objective is globally, whatever was the communication situation, is to identify first your audiences, then to clear the purpose. In every communication situation, the objective, the purpose should be clear on your brain. As I said, we don't communicate for the pleasure of doing so. We communicate for... Yes?
Miss, it is not obligatory to narrow your scope, your targeting scope, in order to gain more efficiency results, because we can extend our scope and adopt different and specific techniques and channels to each targeted audience, and we can guarantee.
Yeah. After identifying those audiences, we should clarify the purpose. And according to audience and the purpose, we will choose what will be the medium of communication. Okay, so for example, if I need to motivate, the objective is to let's say to introduce my candidate to people, to young people, I will choose as medium the Instagram, for example, and I will introduce him through short videos, okay, that talk about his success story, for example. I'm giving like global example that let's say that the main idea of what I'm explaining is that you should have like a clear canvas of what the point you should clarify, okay, to establish that communication strategy. Audiences, purpose, context. Remember, we should consider the context. In what context my communication is happening? I mean, in this critical crisis that we're living today, for example, will it be beneficial, useful, ethical to communicate about an electoral campaign, communicate about potential candidates? I mean, we should consider the context before establishing, before engaging communication actions. Well, audiences, purpose, context, tools, or medium, okay, timing, and communicator, who will communicate, for example. So different composition of this communication strategy canvas that we should clarify, that you should answer, okay, different questions that you should answer before launching, before starting this communication actions, okay? So guys, in this next section, this section number 2, the objective will be to, as I said, examine some leadership communication style, the language of some leaders, and we will try to fly over some basic steps, okay, of leadership communication. So one factor that contributes to variation in leadership effectiveness is communication style. There are several types of leadership in the world. Examples of leaders who have marked our universal history, our common history, can testify this. the strong impact that they have left in the world doesn't mean they have adopted similar communication styles. That explains precisely the existence of several audiences. So, whatever the leadership style they adopt, leaders want their audiences to perceive a positive ethos in their tone, to see them as confident, and to trust and believe them. The best lead not only with actions, but with words. And let me cite some few messages that have marked our history. Indeed, I invite you to do more research on that. Well, when Franklin Roosevelt said that we have nothing to fear but fear itself, or when Ronald Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, or when John Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So there are many styles of leadership. First is authoritarian leaders. And of course, many of you, when I said authoritarian leaders, thought about Hitler. But the examples of authoritarian communicative behavior include also a teacher ordering students to do his or her assignments, and a supervisor instructing a subordinate to clean a workstation. The authoritarian leaders create distance between themselves and their followers as a means of emphasizing rule distinctions. Many authoritarian leaders believe that followers will not function effectively without direct supervision. Well, the second style is democratic leaders. Democratic leaders engage in supportive communication that facilitates interaction between leaders and followers. The democratic leader does not feel intimidated by the suggestions provided by followers, but believes that the contribution of others improves the overall quality of the decision making. Then we have the third kind of the third style of leadership, and I can imagine Bushra smiling since we chose her inspiring leader, Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs is considered as laissez-faire leader. Laissez-faire is a French word that translates a meaning of leave them alone, okay, refers to a form of leader communication that has been called non-leadership by some, yeah. And an effective version of this leadership communication style involves abdication of responsibility on the part of the leader. Leaders withdraw from followers and offer little guidance or support. As a result, productivity, cohesiveness, and satisfaction often suffer. So when one day Steve Jobs said, sorry, it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and then tell them what to do. We hire smart people, so that they can tell us what to do. For example, for democratic leadership styles, the democratic leader involves followers in setting goals. Authoritarian, for example, set goals individually. Laissez-faire allows followers free rein to set their own goals. Well, will the democratic leader mediates conflict for group gain? The authoritarian uses conflict for personal gain. The laissez-faire avoids conflict. For example, when democratic focuses interaction, the authoritarian dominates interaction. Laissez-faire avoids interaction. Okay, so for example, when the democratic, facilitates discussion with followers, the authoritarian controls this discussion with followers. The laissez-faire avoids discussion with followers. Okay, so 3 leadership styles and different characteristics. As I said, whatever the leadership style they adopt, They want their audiences to perceive a positive ethos in their tone and to see them confident and to trust and believe them. So as discussed in section 1 and also in first session when we talk about communication, we are usually communicating for 4 primary purposes or 4 objectives: to inform, to influence, persuade, instruct, and engage. We use our abilities to influence when we negotiate an agreement or sell something, but we also use it to convince others to believe in our vision. Well, let's say that the leaders have 3 qualities that they express through 3 languages. First, l'agilité. And l'agilité is about reading situation and getting this done. Okay? Nelson Mandela said, I never lose. I either win or learn. So this kind of language is about learning from situation and then making decision and then getting things done and then achieving objectives. It's your ability, it's the ability of leader of learning from experiences and learning from situations. Authenticity, ethos. Followers need to know that you have deep value and dreams. And they need to hear you speak about hope. They also need to know about your beliefs. They need to know that your language comes from the heart. Empathy. Caring for people is an important quality for the leader. You should talk with them. You should listen to them. You should help them. You should always ask your question. Some question as, do you chat with people in the hallways and reveal your own weaknesses to them? Do you invite people lower in the organization chart to have a cup of coffee with you? Do you listen carefully? Are you helpful? Those, for example, are the characteristic of this language. Well, for an effective leadership, a leader should give undivided attention to his followers, to people engaged with him. Like being with this very person and not looking around for who is more interesting or more important. This show and keep the person you are with feeling discounted if you are talking with the person and looking for a more interesting person or more important person. So always give an undivided attention. Listen first, talk last. People have sometimes vital things to add to what you are going to say. So wait and include whatever you can from their input. Watch your body. Keep your arms open, not crossed, and pay attention to your tonality. Tonality often says more than the words and can be the endpoint of anything good. Pay attention to the message you send through your body, through your face, through your tones. Tell a story. Keep it short and yes, talk about yourself. Because people follows those they like and respect. Write an afterword. Keep the conversation going by sending a short note that shows they had your undivided attention and that you appreciate the connection. So, okay, alors je vais lire vos messages. They can be autonomous and common. Yeah. So, different style of leadership, starting from the authoritarian, the laissez-faire, the democratic, different type, different vision, different attitudes, but all our leaders, all these kinds of leaders are looking for to, let's say, to look confident, to gain the sympathy, to gain the support of their audiences, of their followers. Okay, so they need to adopt a certain language. They need to adopt certain behaviors. We talk about listening. A leader always listens. We talk about telling story. The leader should, it's a good trick to tell a story about yourself, to talk about your experience, about your achievement, about the difficulties you had through your, let's say, your career. Give undivided attention to a person. When we are talking about a person, when we are dealing about a person, stay focused on him. Don't look for more interesting, important person, other person. Yeah. Write a note after this conversation, okay, to show that you are interested about this talk, about this deal, about this partnership. I don't know. So, easy steps can lead to an effective communication leadership. D'accord? So, as you can notice, comme vous pouvez remarquer, j'ai mis sur la partie, sur la plateforme, les documents, les supports de cours, le learning material des autres sessions, la première, la deuxième, la troisième session. J'ai également mis sur some suggested readings, les ouvrages dont vous avez, que je vous avais promis. D'accord, ils sont sur la plateforme également, vous pouvez les télécharger. J'ai mis également la présentation de remember the digital marketing certification. You know, we talk about at our first meetings. Vous pouvez également la trouver au niveau de la plateforme. Donc, digital marketing certification, suggested readings, and our learning material. I will put also the learning material of this session, okay? And what else? Yeah, for the presentations, Marie asked me last session, asked me about the presentations, and we will start them since we have a kind of delay. We will start them next session, okay? So next session means tomorrow. Yeah, we will start them tomorrow. So, well, let's keep them short because we will have like 2 presentations, Ibrahim presentations, Marie, Ibrahim teams, I mean, Amnay, Younes et Nabil. And Marie team also. And,
OK, madame, OK.
Merci, Amnay.
OK, madame. À cette séance prochaine, Inch'Allah, nous présenter. Merci beaucoup.
C'est-à-dire demain, Amnay.
Ah oui, 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 bien sûr. C'est déjà préparé, c'est déjà préparé, madame.
Parfait.
Merci beaucoup.
Parfait, Amnay.
Merci.
Bonne chance. OK, donc nous aurons le groupe de Amnay, nous aurons également le groupe de Marie demain. Et vous aurez un travail à faire. Voilà, que nous allons traiter ensemble demain. Et un travail que vous allez m'envoyer avant minuit. D'accord? I don't need to remind you that those individual work contribute to your individual grade, remember?
Miss, can you send us all this stuff like on like by message?
You want me to draw a message, a note, for example, about all these things?
Yes, all the details and also like the names, the name list with the groups and the date of presentations. Comme ça, à chaque fois, les étudiants sauront quand ils ont la présentation. C'est plus pratique.
Okay. I believe I already have the file you sent me.
Yeah,
Okay.
but with the dates, like add the dates, ajouter madame les dates à côté de chaque présentation. Comme ça, voilà, on saura.
Qui va passer quand?
Voilà, c'est exactement ça. Voilà.
Okay, so starting for tomorrow, we will have to, you will have 2 groups. I mean, Marie group and team Marie and team Amnay and Ibrahim. And I'll write a note with, as you suggest, with all the teams, the topics and the dates.
Yes, and the homework that we need to do, to give you also with the details.
Yeah, you will find it in the assignment category of the platform.
Thank you very much, Miss. Thank you.
You're welcome, Leila. You're welcome.
Madame, j'ai une remarque, s'il vous plaît.
Vas-y, Amnay.
On a 2 membres dans le groupe de plus. C'est Nabil et Younes.
Comment Amnay? Vous avez combien de membres?
Younes et Nabil se sont devenus avec nous. Ils nous ont rejoints.
Je sais.
Ah, d'accord, merci beaucoup.
Je sais qu'il y a toi, donc il y a toi, il y a Ibrahim, Nabil et Younes.
Oui, madame.
Absolument, et je sais. Donc, la présentation se passera demain.
Oui, madame, merci beaucoup.
Keep it short, OK? Parce que nous avons une deuxième présentation qui est la présentation de Team Marie. Donc, the homework, the assignment should be done before midnight, OK? Je dois le trouver dans ma boîte mail, in my inbox before midnight. Comme ça, on va le traiter demain. Voilà. Donc, des questions?
Non, madame, merci beaucoup.
Non, madame.
Non, madame, merci. C'est clair.
Non, madame, merci.
Merci beaucoup, madame.
Merci à vous et donc à demain.
Ok.
À demain, Inch'Allah.
À demain, madame.
À demain,
Madame.
madame.
Au revoir.
Bonne madame. Bonne
À
fin de
demain,
journée.
madame.
Merci
Merci.
Bonjour.
Merci beaucoup.
Stay home.
Non, je vous ai
Merci, madame.